Firmly grasp it in your hand. Firmly grasp it. Firmly grasp it! That ought to do it.
Yo, sorry for all the blood on the floor. This Sony and Jim Ryan salt has been eating up my internal organs, but I can't stop.
Will you please get help now and treatment?
No.
I spent all my time telling you guys you need the help, but I think I may need it more. But definitely not as much as Brazil and Saudi Arabia need it, because they're suffering from a pony salt epidemic, and now they've just worsened it for themselves by shutting down Jim Ryan.
I don't understand why is you doing this, bro. I've been doing shit all day, bro, and you love you no matter what, bro.
Tú eres un triste y extraño hombrecillo y te tengo lástima. Adiós.
I just knew this would happen. Everyone on that goddamn committee is snorting pounds of salt, and now it's not enough. They need that pure concentrated Jim Ryan salt, and they know they can't afford that quality salt without saving some money on games, which is probably why they decided to tell Jim Ryan to f*** off. Brazil's competition regulator, CADE, has approved Microsoft's Activision Blizzard acquisition without restrictions. It says the decision was made for Brazil consumers and not for the defense of the particular interests of specific competitors.
No! Oh! This is not how this was supposed to go.
Brazil, como te amo!
This is Brazil.
Oh no, 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 no! Flying Jim Ryan is running out of jet fuel and countries he can run and cry to. All that money invested in keeping content off Game Pass was for nothing in the end. Seriously though, this is Brazil we're talking about. Of course they would favor the company that plans to put more content on a cheap, affordable subscription service over the company that just raised hardware prices and game prices on them. It was asinine for Sony to ever think a body that was put in place of protecting consumers would favor them. Easily the coldest and fastest rejection I have ever seen, cause you are about to love what CADE had to say. With regard to the possibility of closing downstream markets, the analysis pointed out that despite their relevance and popularity, Activision Blizzard games, and in particular the Call of Duty series, would not be essential assets to the performance of Microsoft's current and potential competitors in the console and digital game distribution markets, considering in the latter both digital stores and multiple game subscription services for PC and consoles. Thus, even if Activision Blizzard game catalog were to become exclusive to the Microsoft ecosystem after the transaction, CG/CADE considers that such exclusivity would not result in a substantial reduction in the levels of competition in the downstream markets, even if it could translate into a competitive advantage for Microsoft.
If those kids could read, they'd be very upset.
I would ask the ponies to read that fine print carefully, but even if they could actually read it, they'd still come to a whole nother conclusion that would only make their 8-hour-long Twitter spaces 15 hours long. There's no win in explaining it to them, but I'll try anyway. What we have here are analysts and career market regulators who spend months investigating this shit, unlike the fanboys who spend an entire workday on Twitter. They run the numbers and can verify the effects this will have on consumers, and the conclusion they came to is that, well, this purchase won't hurt competition. Even if Microsoft did make COD exclusive. There, they said it. They did all the work none of us can actually do to verify this. Do you get it now? For God's sake, do I have to fly you up on a rocket so you can see the Earth is actually round? Furthermore, it is important to highlight that the central objective of CADE's activities is the protection of competition as a means of promoting the well-being of Brazilian consumers, and not the defense of the particular interests of specific competitors. After all, one cannot lose sight of the fact that the holder of the legal assets protected by law, number 12,529/2011, is the collectivity and not the competitor/economic agent as an individual entity. In this sense, although it is recognized that part of the users of PlayStation consoles from Sony could decide to migrate to Xbox in the event that Activision Blizzard games, and especially Call of Duty, become exclusive to the Microsoft ecosystem, SG/CADE does not believe that such a possibility represents in itself a risk to competition in the console market as a whole.
You know what? That's Sony's issue, not my problem.
Jesus Christ, Brazil! How can you be so goddamn cold while being a country that's on the equator? Don't get me wrong, I love watching Sony get told off, but I wasn't expecting it to be this brutal. They are outright telling Sony they don't care if they lose console users due to COD, as they should, because if they did care, then they wouldn't be judging this proposal fairly. They can't just simply favor the current market leader, who will in all honesty, at most, just be inconvenienced by this. Sony isn't exactly in last place nor even close to it. No regulator is going to view Sony as a victim of a monopoly. They know Sony's tiers are as fake as their SSD marketing. Microsoft, who has basically had no advantage in the console market over Sony for nearly a decade, isn't gonna be viewed as the aggressor. It's unbelievable to see Sony actually think their plea would influence anything here. It wasn't just brushed off by Brazil regulators, it was outright mocked. I can see now why Microsoft even gave Sony any sort of deal this early on. They are pretty confident in the purchase going through. If I were Jim Ryan, I'd save the last of my jet fuel and fly back to Washington to beg Phil Spencer to forgive him for trying to stop this acquisition before Phil decides to completely pull his original offer. Because as it stands, Sony is literally the only one who disapproves of this acquisition. Well, not entirely, actually. We obviously can't forget the ponies, who in less than a minute from catching the news were already seething online.
Twitter exists to beat your wounds in the face and have you react immediately.
For sure.
That's,
For
you know
sure.
what I'm saying?
For
Have you ever
sure.
been on Twitter? It's
Yeah.
a cesspool.
Briefly.
It's the worst.
Brazil approved of Microsoft buying Activision? Not surprised. Brazil has been in Microsoft's pockets for years. In the PS4 era, Brazilian government imposed hefty taxes on PS4. They did not impose on Xbox. Microsoft brokered special deals in Brazil for politicians getting money for manufacturing.
Wrong!
Posted 9 years ago. My God. And here we are sitting 9 years later with Sony imposing their own personal console tax on people. Oh, how the times have changed. So what you were basically trying to tell us, Mr. Generic PlayStation game profile pic, is that whoever approves of this deal must be in Microsoft's pockets? Also, Microsoft was manufacturing consoles in Brazil at that time to avoid Brazil's heavy import taxes. If you're gonna bring useless information to the discussion, then at the very least, get the goddamn info right, fool. The first thing the ponies want to do is bring up the goddamn past like it matters, yet they don't even do that right.
One of the most corrupt countries on the planet. I wouldn't place too much faith in that. They were never going to go against whatever was offered to them in a brown envelope.
And just like that, the entire Brazilian nation is now the enemy of PlayStation fanboys. You cannot make this shit up. If Brazil denied this purchase, you can bet your ass the ponies would be cheering them on at the next World Cup. Hell, I wouldn't be surprised if they protest Brazil being in the next FIFA game. Never underestimate the pettiness of a pony.
Wait, the current Brazilian government doesn't have a problem with monopolies? Pikachu face!
Do you know what that word means?
Yep.
Yeah, what's that mean?
You've got to be shitting me. Brazilian regulators spend months researching to determine that this isn't a monopoly, and the ponies still want to label it that? God himself could come down from the heavens to tell them it's not a monopoly, and they'd immediately crucify him on the spot. At this point, there's nothing that can convince them because they still don't know what that f***ing word means, apparently. The math, the research, the analysis was all done for them, and they still failed. How?
Brazil is Xbox-centric!
Oh, yeah, of course! Because the entire goddamn country runs off of Xbox! How did I not think of that? The entire Brazilian government is just a bunch of Xbox. Makes perfect sense! Yes, all of their regulations go according to whatever console is favored in the country. That's totally how it all works.
No wonder why 2 of the most corrupt countries in the world are the only ones who approved it! Laugh my ass off!
Oh, God, yes, I love that.
Are you seriously implying the United States, EU, and UK aren't corrupt? Stop! What are you going to do if they do approve of it? Do you not think about claims like this before tapping tweet? Because at this rate, it's going to become PlayStation versus the world. Alex Jones wishes he could come up with this conspiracy nonsense. There isn't a single answer that will ever get them to leave that ridiculous us versus them mindset. Because it's a goddamn mental illness.
Microsoft announces partnership with the Brazilian government. The initiative is a part of Microsoft's program called Base Brazil, which aims to contribute to the country's economic growth.
The first thing my man does is find a new conspiracy theory he can grasp onto. The Red Dragon abandoned his 130k sub channel to commit full-time to Twitter therapy for PlayStation fanboys. I'm not even joking about that. They'd rather make an enemy of an entire country than take their L. They are that committed. They hate Microsoft more than they love video games, and it shows in how dedicated they are to denying reality itself. He'd rather denounce an entire country than admit Sony was wrong. Does he not realize how batshit insane that is? Oh, but this isn't even his most pathetic take. A day before the news was even announced, the Red Dragon was already having a mental breakdown.
Flashback.
I hope the Microsoft/Activision deal goes through, simply because I fear for the personal safety of some of these Xbox guys. The way they post about it and get so upset anytime news is released. They act like everything is riding on this. Just remember what Xbox said in court.
Bitch, what? You just announced 2 countries over them approving of this acquisition. You are riding on this to fail more than people are hoping it succeeds, which is fucking crazy to me. The minute the news dropped of the approval, you were already scouring the internet, desperately looking for a way to paint it as bad. That's the type of dedication Sony wishes it had from its own actual employees. But in this case, the Red Dragon is just a full-time Twitter poster. And I'm told I'm wasting my life, yet I'm pulling in money doing this. I don't know what the hell the Red Dragon's doing. 24 hours before Brazil approved of the acquisition, you were singing a whole different tune. If you really meant what you said, you would be celebrating Brazil approving of the acquisition, but instead you're calling them corrupt. Is a little consistency too much to ask for? Now, other than the Dragon, let's rewind a few days back to see what our other favorite pony accounts were saying before phase 1 of this acquisition went through.
Bethesda acquisition by Microsoft factored into Stadia Studios shutdown. I want this acquisition to fail, if only to see absolute meltdowns that would occur on this bird app from salty Xbox extremists. The hashtag stay salty.
Wait, Xbox played a role in the shutdown of Stadia? The absolute chads! Oh, I love you, Phil! I'm resubscribing to Game Pass just for that one. You want revenge for the platform you never even thought twice about? The only meltdowns happening are the ones from this acquisition further progressing. You know it's bad when Saltiest Gaming hasn't even tweeted once about this today. He knows he can't say anything after this horrendous tweet. It's not the type of L he can easily shrug off. Man was putting it all on the line in order for the deal to fail to the point he capped for Google's Stadia. Let us never forget what Saltiest Gaming just did.
Blame fear. The FTC invited Jim down to show them this inadequate and low-quality proposal to the next car deal. Phil shouldn't have shown his cards before Microsoft owned Activision. Phil's unprofessional behaviors put the deal in jeopardy.
Yeah, well, the Brazilian government just showed Sony how unprofessional and unrealistic they were in their plea. They shut Sony down almost immediately. The fact they didn't give Microsoft a single restriction should tell you something. Microsoft is being awfully generous, while the regulators are basically telling them you don't have to be. That's a level of professionalism you will never see out of Sony.
Sorry to tell y'all, but this Activision Blizzard deal ain't gonna make it. Call me a pony, say that I'm hating, but your disappointment is going to be because you were too invested in this in the first place.
Well, I don't know about you, but those were very convincing words from this douchebag wearing a beanie that says Mr. No Cap.
We used to beat people up for wearing things like that. Everything's all topsy-turvy now.
I'm guessing he didn't see Brazil approving of this deal 4 days later. Again, the ponies are far more confident in writing on this deal failing than anyone is writing on it succeeding. Dudes have denounced entire countries, capped for Google Stadia, and claim Microsoft is paying off all the countries in the world. And this is just phase 1 of the acquisition. It's getting worse by the day. Hell no, it's getting worse by the hour. Please, all market regulators, just let this go through already. I can't stand to see them suffering for so long. Just end their pain already. Jim Ryan, take the deal. Please, I'm trying to hold on to every last bit of hope I have in humanity. Only time will tell if this deal goes through, but that's the problem. In the time we're waiting, there's absolute chaos all over the internet. So just give us an answer already, so I can prepare the next batch of salt. Cause who knows if it's gonna be from the Xbots or the ponies. Either way, there will be salt. So stop drinking your own piss water to get high again. I promise you there will be plenty more to come. And with that being said, consider becoming a member. Like, comment, share, subscribe if you so choose to. I'll see you in the next one.
Free Congo sucks ass.